Welcome back to part 3 of my life-size 3D printed Jabba the Hutt project. In this project, I'm going to be taking this model that I commissioned from a 3D modeler, cutting it into pieces, and then printing those pieces on one of my Creality CR10 printers, before finally gluing them all together and painting the resulting statue. Now, I really recommend that you watch the first 2 parts in this series if you haven't seen them already. But just to recap a little bit, in the first part I printed the head that you see here. And in the second part I went on to his body, including his arms and his upper torso. So today we're going to be tackling the next layer down, which includes sort of the top of his tail, a little bit of his hand, and part of his stomach, as well as his back. And this is going to be the biggest layer that I've done up until now in terms of the number of pieces and things like that. In my last video, I talked about some of the printing issues that I ran into, but I really didn't have any problems this time in that regard. Everything printed really well. I did have some problems, though, just keeping track of all the pieces, figuring out what I had printed and what I hadn't, so I made this little diagram here with all the numbers that correspond to the files that I'm printing, and, with an effort of just trying to keep them straight, trying to figure out where things go and how they fit together. And after a lot of gluing and swearing, I got this. This is where I am at the moment with the project. He's really starting to take shape now, especially if you look at him from a little bit of a distance away, where you can't see the joins or imperfections. He's very impressive looking. Really, the only issue that I did have was that I ended up printing some pieces more than once. This piece came out real nice in yellow, but I already printed it accidentally, and this one I did 3 times if you include the one that's on Jabba now. Whoops. Now you can see, as I said, some of these are in yellow, and I decided when I was talking with MakerGeeks, who are, of course, sponsoring this project, that I would not really mind getting some non-white filament if they had some extra of a certain color or other, because I could just put it on the bottom or the back of Jabba, and of course he's going to be painted eventually as well. I had used some super glue for the upper layers as well as epoxy, but I decided to move on to just epoxy glue for the bottom layers, just because given all the weight that's going to be on top of them, I think they need to be extra strong, and it just seemed like a good idea. You may not be able to tell this just by looking at it, but this is not all entirely glued together. The tail here is a separate piece from the body, and the head and body are also separate pieces as well. I just have them sort of sitting on or next to each other. The reason for that is that, as you can probably tell, I'm building this in my basement, and while Jabba is going to be living in my basement long term, I do want to be able to get him out for a couple of reasons. One is that I need to take these pieces up and outside so I can spray paint it and use body filler and sand it and so forth. I want to be able to fill these cracks that we can see here between the various sections. And it would be nice if it wasn't permanently stuck in the basement, although I may need to end up gluing it all together once I start doing the final painting and so forth. Here you can see the pieces as they are at the moment. We have 3 sections: the head, the tail, or the top of the tail, and the body, which is a combination of parts I printed this time and some parts that I printed in the last episode. I already tested that the head will go up the stairs, and this tail section, of course, is not a problem, although it's going to be glued onto part of the lower tail, I believe. The real sticking point may be this main body section, because it's by far the largest. In terms of its actual dimensions, it looks like it'll go up the stairs, but there's a landing halfway up the stairs going up from the basement, so it has to sort of turn a corner, and I'm not entirely sure if it'll fit. I can't even test it out at this point because I have to move a bunch of shelves out of the way, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that. So we're getting quite close to the end. I actually printed this tip of the tail, which is from the next layer down, the last section, and it's kind of a funny shape as it is. It also makes a fashionable hat, I found, so that's nice. It's hard to convey the size of something like this in a video, but just to give you an idea, at the moment he's roughly 4.5 feet tall, and when I do the final section, it'll be somewhere between 5.5 and 6 feet tall, and around 10 feet long. To look at it another way, here is the TiVo Michelangelo printer that I recently reviewed, and here it is next to Jabba. I really wonder how long it would take to print something like this with a printer that small. As I said, we're closing in on the home stretch, at least as far as the printing is concerned, but the final layer is going to be the biggest one yet in terms of the number of pieces and the surface area involved, because we have both the sides and the bottom to print. And I'm also going to be beefing it up a little bit just to make sure it's nice and sturdy to support what's going to be on top of it. I hope you've enjoyed the project so far. I don't really intend these videos to be a tutorial exactly. They're more an example of what you can do with 3D printing if you set your mind to it, and how you can sort of figure out things on the fly when you're in the middle of a project, because that's what I've been doing for the most part. But I would be very interested to know if anyone else has been sort of inspired to do their own life-sized printing project. The appearance of low-cost, large-format 3D printers has really made this kind of thing possible now, so if you have something you want to print big, I'd suggest giving it a try. I am going to try to finish up the 3D printing aspect of this project as soon as I can, and then maybe take a bit of a break during the summer to do things with my family and things like that, before resuming the project later on in the year. Also, don't forget that MakerGeeks, the sponsor of this project, has given me a special coupon code for my viewers. Just type in Jabba at checkout to get 15% off your order. Thanks again to MakerGeeks for sponsoring this project, and be sure to use the affiliate link below if you want to support this channel. Thanks for watching!